Hello, my name is Shane, and I'm going to be talking about the biomechanics of typing. So, the basics here, we have got 4 different movements that we can do in both of our wrists and in our fingers, and those include abduction, adduction, flexion, and extension. And we are going to talk about mine, what I noticed when the assignment of my typing. So let's get into the nitty-gritty numbers first. We looked at velocity of the first, second, and fifth fingers. It's a little bit harder to track my thumbs just because I only move one and it didn't really move a lot while hitting that space bar. But that first finger for the thumb was tracking at 0.13 milliseconds. That index finger, which is the second finger, was the 0.08 milliseconds. And then that pinky was tracking at a 0.07 milliseconds. And then we looked at the distance that my wrist was moving and the furthest distance that it ever moved in that time frame. The right wrist did move a lot more and moved at about a 38.54 millimeters, while the left wrist only moved about 27.37 millimeters. And like I had mentioned before, my thumb had a little bit harder time tracking just because it didn't seem to move a lot while I was striking on the space bar, but my right thumb was the one doing all of the space bar tracks or strikes. That left thumb was more dormant, and we tracked about 66 strikes. Now, I did notice some different wrist movements. My right side, like I said before, moved a lot more. That left side's kind of stationed down on my right wrist and didn't really move and had more of the finger movements instead of the wrist movements. So you can see in this first one, we've got some radial deviation to where my hand tilted towards the midline and towards the left side of the keyboard. And then we went into an ulnar deviation, which rotated my wrist out to the side away from the left side. And then you can see while the wrist was trying to move over into that ulnar deviation, you did get some dorsiflexion in there to lift up. Now with the finger movements, we did get some distal interphalangeal hyperextension in that left side, so it had very primarily finger movements. It also had some flexion in the phalanges and did have mostly adduction on the left side and abduction in the right side. And comparing these to the motions that we learned and mine in general, most people do have a dominant hand with the alienated thumb. Like my left side wasn't moving, and then movements can be finger or wrist driven. Like my left side was finger driven while my right was wrist driven in movement. And then I could probably work on the mobility in my left wrist to be able to move more instead of staying planted down on there to allow more movement. And that could be done with using like a pad or a towel and to encourage the same hand placements and movements as well to reduce the dorsiflexion strain. And then these are my references. Thanks so much.